A deer can outrun you. A grizzly bear could kill you with a single swipe. An eagle can spot movement from nearly 2 miles away. A wolf can smell you long before you ever know it's there. So here's the question. Why does the entire forest panic the moment a human shows up? The birds suddenly stop singing. The deer freeze for a split second before vanishing into the trees. Even predators quietly disappear into the shadows. It almost feels as if nature itself is trying to avoid us, which doesn't make much sense. We're not the fastest animal. We're not the strongest. We don't have claws. We don't have venom. We don't even have thick fur to survive the cold. Compared to most wild animals, we're surprisingly fragile. Yet somehow, we're the one creature almost every animal would rather avoid. Why? The answer goes much deeper than you probably imagine. And by the end of this story, you may realize that animals aren't afraid of humans because they're weak. They're afraid because evolution taught them that fearing us is one of the smartest decisions they can make. Let's start at the very beginning. Long before cities, long before farming, long before the first road was ever built, our ancestors were simply another animal trying to survive. And honestly, they weren't very impressive. A lion could outrun them. A leopard could overpower them. A mammoth could crush them without even trying. On paper, humans should never have become Earth's dominant predator. But evolution doesn't always reward strength. Sometimes, it rewards patience. Anthropologists believe one of humanity's greatest hunting advantages wasn't speed, it was persistence. Imagine you're a gazelle crossing the African savanna. You notice a human hundreds of yards away. It doesn't seem dangerous. It isn't sprinting. It isn't hiding. It just keeps walking. So you run. A few minutes later, you stop to catch your breath. The human is still coming. You run again. Hours pass. The afternoon sun becomes unbearable. Your muscles begin to ache. Your breathing grows heavier. Every instinct tells you to keep moving, but your body is reaching its limit. The human isn't. Eventually, you don't lose because the human was faster. You lose because the human never stopped. Scientists call this persistence hunting. Unlike lions or cheetahs, early humans didn't need explosive speed. They simply kept following until exhaustion became their greatest weapon. To prey animals, this was something entirely new. Every predator had limits. A wolf eventually gives up. A lion eventually rests. A crocodile returns to the water. Humans didn't always stop. If today failed, they came back tomorrow. That kind of predator had almost no equal. Over thousands of generations, wildlife slowly adapted, not by thinking, not by making conscious decisions, but through evolution. The animals that hesitated were less likely to survive. The animals that ran immediately had a much better chance. Generation after generation, natural selection quietly strengthened one simple survival rule. If it looks like a human, run. Don't wait. Don't investigate. Don't take chances. Just leave. Fear wasn't becoming stronger. It was becoming smarter. Because in nature, hesitation is often fatal. That ancient survival rule still exists today. It's why squirrels bolt before you're even close. Why rabbits disappear into bushes at the smallest movement. Why deer often detect danger long before hikers realize they've been seen. But persistence hunting only explains part of the story. Because today, humans are frightening for an entirely different reason. We're unlike anything else in nature. Every predator follows patterns. Wolves usually hunt around dawn and dusk. Owls become active after sunset. Crocodiles wait patiently near the water's edge. Over millions of years, prey animals learn those patterns. Knowing where danger usually appears is often enough to survive. Humans shattered every pattern nature had ever established. We hunt during the day. We hunt at night. We hunt alone. We hunt in groups. We hunt from boats, from trees, from helicopters. Today, even from drones. Sometimes we hunt because we're hungry. Sometimes because we're protecting livestock. Sometimes for sport. Sometimes simply because an animal wandered into the wrong place. Imagine trying to survive against something that refuses to follow any rules. How would you predict it? You couldn't. And that's exactly the problem. Behavioral ecologists often describe humans as a super predator, not because we're physically unbeatable, but because every other predator fits into nature's survival algorithms. Humans don't. We're constantly inventing new ways to hunt, new tools, new strategies, new technologies. Evolution never had enough time to prepare wildlife for something that changes this quickly. Then, in 2016, researchers decided to test just how deeply animals feared humans. The experiment was surprisingly simple. They placed speakers near watering holes where wild animals regularly gathered. Then they played different sounds. lions roaring, dogs barking, gunshots, and ordinary human conversations. Nothing dramatic, just people casually talking. The kind of conversation you might overhear at a coffee shop. The results stunned the researchers. Mountain lions fled more quickly from human voices than from other predators. Bobcats did the same. So did deer, skunks, possums, and several other mammals. Think about that for a second. An apex predator, one that has almost no natural enemies, reacted more strongly to two strangers chatting than to another predator announcing its presence. That's extraordinary. Scientists believe this happens because animals don't simply fear humans. They fear what humans represent. Across thousands of years, humans became the one predator capable of hunting almost anything. Large, small, fast, slow, on land, in water, almost nowhere was completely safe. Unlike wolves or lions, humans didn't just hunt individual animals. We changed entire landscapes. We cleared forests, built roads, drained wetlands, redirected rivers, introduced unfamiliar sounds, artificial lights, vehicles, machines. To wildlife, humans didn't simply arrive. We transformed the world around us. That's why many animals begin changing their behavior long before a person actually appears. Scientists have a name for this phenomenon: the landscape of fear. Imagine the forest as an invisible map. Some places feel safe, others don't. One meadow may offer plenty of food, but if humans regularly walk nearby, the deer stop feeding there. A stream may contain fresh water, but if hikers often pass through, foxes begin drinking somewhere else. Nothing attacked them, nothing chased them. The possibility alone was enough. Nature doesn't wait for certainty. It reacts to probability. That's one of evolution's greatest lessons. The cost of running away unnecessarily is small. The cost of staying when danger is real can never be undone. If you're enjoying stories like this, subscribe to Human Stories. Every week, we uncover the hidden science, forgotten history, and remarkable truths behind the natural world stories that completely change the way you see life on Earth. But here's where the mystery becomes even more fascinating. If humans are so terrifying, why do pigeons calmly walk between our feet? Why do squirrels steal food from our hands? And why are there places on Earth where wild animals don't seem afraid of people at all? The answer is something biologists call habituation. It sounds complicated, but the idea is surprisingly simple. When an animal repeatedly encounters something that never harms it, its brain slowly stops treating that thing as a serious threat. Imagine moving into a house next to a busy railroad. During the first week, every passing train wakes you up. A month later, you barely notice it. The trains haven't become quieter. Your brain has simply learned they aren't dangerous. Wild animals can do the same thing. Pigeons living in busy city squares quickly learn that thousands of people walk past them every day without causing harm. Park squirrels discover that humans often bring food instead of danger. Seagulls become so comfortable around people that they boldly steal lunch straight out of someone's hand. They're not fearless. They're adapting. Because fear is expensive. Every unnecessary escape wastes energy. Every unnecessary sprint burns calories. Nature constantly tries to eliminate wasted effort. If humans stop behaving like predators, many animals slowly reduce their fear. But not every species responds in exactly the same way. Some animals go even further. Take crows, for example. Scientists have discovered that crows don't simply recognize humans as one large group. They recognize individual faces. In one famous study, researchers wearing a particular mask captured several crows for routine scientific measurements. Years later, those same masked faces still triggered aggressive behavior. The crows remembered them. Even more remarkable, young crows that had never seen the original event also reacted with alarm. The older birds had somehow passed the information along. Think about what that means. A crow doesn't just remember dangerous people. It teaches the next generation who to watch. That's not instinct. That's culture. It's one of the clearest examples that animals are constantly learning from experience, just as we do. Then there are places where that experience never existed. One of the most famous examples is the Galapagos Islands. When Charles Darwin arrived there in the 1830s, he was astonished. Many animals simply didn't run away. Blue-footed boobies remained on the ground as people walked nearby. Marine iguanas barely reacted. Giant tortoises continued eating as if humans weren't even there. Early explorers thought the animals were unusually tame. Some even called them foolish. But they weren't foolish. They had never learned that humans could be dangerous. The same thing happens in parts of Antarctica today. Researchers often describe curious penguins waddling toward them instead of running away. The birds inspect backpacks, peek at cameras, sometimes even nibble on equipment. Not because penguins are unusually brave, but because, throughout most of their evolutionary history, there was simply no reason to fear humans. That tells us something incredibly important. Animals aren't born fearing people. They learn that fear through generations of experience. And when those experiences change, their behavior changes too. Unfortunately, our influence on wildlife goes far beyond making animals run away. Fear itself can reshape entire ecosystems. Ecologists call this the ecology of fear. Imagine spending every day convinced that something might kill you. You wouldn't relax very often. You'd eat quickly, sleep lightly, constantly scan your surroundings. Wild animals experience many of those same physiological changes. Researchers have found that deer spend less time feeding when humans are nearby. Foxes alter their travel routes. Birds abandon nesting sites more easily. Some mammals have even shifted from daytime activity to nighttime simply to avoid people. One major international study found that mammals across the globe are becoming increasingly nocturnal wherever human activity is common. Not because they suddenly preferred the dark, because darkness offers fewer encounters with us. Without realizing it, humans have changed the daily schedule of wildlife across much of the planet. And perhaps the saddest part is that fear doesn't disappear the moment we leave. Animals continue adjusting their behavior long after the trail is empty, long after the engines stop, long after the voices fade away. Fear lingers. It quietly shapes where animals eat, where they raise their young, even how much energy they have left to survive another day. Ironically, that same fear also makes conservation more difficult. The animals that need protection the most are often the hardest to observe, the hardest to study, the hardest to help. They're simply too afraid to come close. But this story doesn't have to end there. Around the world, scientists are discovering something hopeful. When humans behave consistently, respectfully, and predictably, wildlife slowly begins to respond. National parks provide some of the best examples. Animals living inside protected areas often become noticeably calmer over time, not because they've forgotten history, but because history is giving them new evidence. Mountain gorillas in Central Africa once fled from nearly every human encounter. Today, carefully managed ecotourism allows researchers and visitors to observe many gorilla families from a respectful distance. The animals remain cautious, but they no longer react with overwhelming panic. Marine reserves tell a similar story. Fish that once fled from every diver eventually continue feeding as people swim past. Whales have returned to regions where commercial hunting disappeared decades ago. Again and again, nature demonstrates the same remarkable ability. Given enough safety, life adapts. Trust isn't built through a single peaceful encounter. It's built through patterns, the exact same way fear was. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans taught wildlife that we were dangerous. Now, little by little, we have the opportunity to teach something different. That may be the greatest responsibility our intelligence gives us. Not proving we're powerful. We've already done that. The real challenge is proving that power can exist alongside restraint. The next time you see a deer disappear into the trees, or birds suddenly explode into the sky as you walk by, don't think of them as timid. Think of them as survivors. They're following a survival strategy refined across countless generations, one that has protected their ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years. From their perspective, running isn't an overreaction. It's wisdom. And perhaps the most important question was never why animals fear humans. The real question is this: what kind of humans will future generations of wildlife learn to expect? If you enjoy discovering the hidden stories behind the natural world, subscribe to Human Stories. Every week, we explore remarkable stories where science, history, and nature come together to reveal something extraordinary, not only about wildlife, but about ourselves. And before you go, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think animals will ever stop fearing humans? Or has our species changed nature forever? Share your answer in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next Human Stories.